Statistics are fairly easy to find these days with the internet at everyone's fingertips. You can easily do your own research using three basic starting points. The first is average salary, the second is oil consumption, and the third is food. Then compare each of these with other countries around the world. Here is what I found on the average or median salary. According to the website My Budget 360, the 2011 USA Census returned a median household income of $50,000. When high income earners are included in the figures, this pushes the average household income up to $70,000, with nearly a quarter of all households making $100,000 or more. Now compare that with the average wage in Pakistan, $8,000 to $10,000. And finally, the state pension in the United Kingdom is just under £6,000. So already you can see that the average family in the USA is earning 6 times what a pensioner has to live on in the UK. Next is oil consumption. In the USA, it's 19 million barrels a day. In the UK, just 1 million barrels a day. In Pakistan, about 500,000 barrels a day. This means that per person, the average American consumes nearly 4 times the average United Kingdom person and over 20 times what Pakistan uses. And finally, food consumption. In America, the average is 15.7 kilojoules. In the UK, 14.39 kilojoules. In Pakistan, 9.4. The minimum per person is about 7.5. This means that the average American consumes twice what he or she needs. So the conclusion of this excursion into the land of numbers is yes, America is probably the wealthiest country in the world, and when compared with other countries, it can quite sensibly and without prejudice be described as the greediest per person. So what has all this to do with 9/11 and repentance? And should Jesus' teaching be taken from the 1st century and put into the 21st? Well, if we assume that in the 1st century Jesus was talking to a cross-section of society in which all types of people were represented, from the very wealthy to the very poor, then what makes those people any different to the many thousands of people who were similarly represented in 2001? To my mind, no difference at all. Time and chance have changed many things over 2,000 years, but one thing that will never change is human nature. So it might be a good idea if Americans started repenting of their personal greed. No one is accepted from repentance. Are we any better? Not at all. We have already made the charge that everyone is under sin. As it is written, there is no one righteous, not even one. I could continue with corruption, power, corporate greed, and overwillingness to go to war and so on, but I won't. What I will look at is the state of Christianity in American society. As the attacks of 9/11 were supposed to be religiously motivated, it might be worthwhile looking at the opposite religious view. American Christianity is a large and controversial subject which has been discussed and written about by many people far more qualified than myself. But here are 2 or 3 examples to start you thinking. The first is that the USA has the highest percentage of Christian believers for any developed country in the world. According to the 2008 Harris poll, this is 71%. Now ask yourself, why does one of the wealthiest, most self-indulgent and corrupt nation on earth have the highest percentage of Christian believers? This must present a contradiction, because a very shortened primary school level examination of the teachings of Jesus will reveal that Christianity is supposed to be the very opposite of everything American. Poverty and temperance is praised. Selfishness and hypocrisy are condemned. We should turn the other cheek when offended. We should not own or carry firearms. We should show moderation, restraint and honesty in everything. So we must conclude that American Christianity is not Christianity at all, but in many areas is a complete fraud and self-invented make-believe. For example, here are 10 incidents which have happened over the last few years and can be directly attributed to pseudo-Christianity in the USA. A preacher and pastor kills himself because he handles snakes. This is a self-invented make-believe based on a literal interpretation of a verse in Mark chapter 16. Many medical centres and doctors have been attacked over the last few years due to family planning. Physically attacking people because of their views on family planning or abortion is also make-believe Christianity. Live and let live, and the golden rule of don't do to others what you don't expect them to do to you is what Christianity is about. In 2013, an American pastor had a special day for burning Qurans. Trying to start a hate campaign against any group of people or religion is more false Christianity. A TV evangelist is jailed for rape. Another evangelist is sued for fraud. And another admits adultery. American Christian James Wesley Rawls preaches and practices survivalism and self-defense, including firearms. In 1993, 76 people died in the siege of Waco, Texas, as a result of following the Branch Davidian cult led by David Koresh. Needless to say, this was a Christian cult. The Church of the Latter-day Saints, or Mormons, is one of the most intimidating and mind-controlling cults of the 21st century, and yet has an American membership of just over 6 million. The list of beliefs which are not Bible-based or are a distortion of the Bible, such as polygamy and baptism for the dead, are endless. They are also very disturbing. And the final example, Sarah Palin, a candidate for the Vice President in the 2008 presidential elections, is a member of the National Rifle Association, supports the Second Amendment, which states the right of individuals to keep and bear arms, and thinks nothing of going out on weekend hunting expeditions and cooking the deer for dinner, which she has just killed with a high-powered rifle. Unbelievably, she also attends the Assembly of God Church. So looked at from this point of view, American Christianity is certainly alive and well, but there are plenty of things wrong with it. A distortion or perversion of first century Christianity is putting things quite mildly, and all these things need to be repented of, turned around, changed forever, or whichever way you want to describe it. So where does all this lead us? Well, if Jesus said that repentance is the key to terrorism, disasters and human suffering, then he could just be right. And if Jesus said that repentance is the key to hypocrisy, self-indulgence, greed, wealth, power and corruption, then he might just be right. And if Jesus said that repentance is the key to a pseudo-religious lifestyle, which is not religious at all, but is distortion, lies, doctrines of hate and self-preservation with firearms, then again, he might just be right. But the most remarkable and mind-blowing thing about this whole video, which has now gone on for 5 parts, is that the falling tower of Siloam exists in the first place as a prophecy of the future, which has become our present, and that the terrorism of the Roman soldiers who killed those first century Galileans happened as it did, also as a prophecy of the future, which has also become our present